So today let's talk about Saw X, which I just saw on Thursday, and this is being recorded on Monday. But Saw X is, of course, the newest Saw movie, and I will mention the franchise as a whole before I talk about Saw X, because the Saw franchise I really dig, and I really like a lot of them, or love a lot of them. I particularly love the first two, and then 6 and 7. Like, I think those are my absolute favorites out of all of them. Like 4 and 5 are good, and Jigsaw and Spiral are fine, but I feel like they're not as entertaining as the other ones for me. And Saw is a very entertaining franchise. It's one that I love. I love the fact that it keeps going. I love how they do a good job with their continuity and make this a really fascinating horror franchise, because they always find something that they can squeeze right in there as a new plot device, or new plot mechanic, or new characters that you didn't know existed. Like in all the other Saw movies, where you see like, oh, this has been going on the whole time, kind of thing. So I do love the franchise as a whole. It's really fun, and I've watched it a lot of times. But looking at Saw X, this one is interesting because it's not a movie that cuts back and forth. It is a movie that's set in its exact time frame. This is, even though it's called Saw X, it is a sequel to the first Saw. It is between Saw 1 and 2, and John Kramer goes to Mexico because he hears of this thing where he can get cured of his brain cancer, and then he realizes that he's been duped, and then the traps are set. That's the basic plot of this, and I don't want to give anything else really in terms of the plot away, besides what you've seen in the trailer. Like, Amanda's in the movie. That's something that they spoiled in the trailer, so I felt safe to say that. But the thing I really thought was interesting about this movie is that, like I said, it doesn't jump back and forth between other time frames. It is just literally just this time period, like this, where John goes from the US to Mexico, and then that's it. There's no in between. There's no like predestined. The only time they have flashbacks is parts that are actually in the movie themselves. It's not like they're like years away like the other Saw movies. And I really thought that was fascinating, because the Saw movies all mess with time travel, very much so. And this one did not. Well, I guess Spiral didn't really either, besides one flashback with Chris Rock as a kid, Marcus. But it really doesn't do that as much either as the other Saw movies. But this one is very self-contained, and I saw a review that really kind of made me laugh, but made me think, man, that's kind of accurate, that this is an Avengers level type of side story in the Saw universe, because it doesn't connect to all the other movies besides a couple little cameos. It is literally just a character story with the traps, and the traps are not the first priority in this movie, which was actually genuinely surprising, because every other Saw movie is about a detective story, or about people trapped and are trying to get out of the traps, said traps. And this movie does not do that. It is a John Kramer story through and through. This is the only movie where it's fully about John Kramer, because it does not go back in time. It doesn't change time frames a lot at all. It's just John Kramer's story going to Mexico, and this happens, and then he sets the traps for these people that wronged him. And that's it. And I was surprised, because we really don't get anything else. And I like that. I like that it's different. Like I said, it does feel like a side story, but in the best way, because it gives John Kramer a full story arc. And it's so cool that they could do that in between these movies, which these movies have already been through and through going crazy with the time travel. And that's awesome that you can find that in this franchise. And Tobin Bell is really good in this. Like, he is in all of the movies, but man, you really feel for him. You really do care for this character and see what he's going through, even though he does what he does with his traps. Like, it's one of those movies where they're doing this now. They've been doing this for a while, where a lot of horror movie villains are now considered like heroes because they're doing bad things, but they're up against people who are doing worse things, or objectively worse things. And it's cool that it blurs the line. Like, it's not saying be a bad person like these people are, but you have a bigger baddie compared to your regular baddie. I think that that's cool. And I think that's interesting. And this movie just really did a fun job at that. And like I said, it didn't really focus on the traps until the second half of the movie. There was one trap in it in the beginning that was like not really a trap, and I guess that's kind of not really a spoiler, but you'll understand when you see it. But it felt like an obligation to be there because the audience wanted that immediately, but we didn't get that for the first half of the movie, so they added in that scene. And it is the poster with the guy with the things on his eyeballs, the tubes. That scene. But that's fine because I understand some people are antsy and want to get to the traps and don't care about character development, but this one I thought was really interesting with that, and I really liked that a lot. Also, like I said, this is in the trailer, so I feel safe saying it, but Amanda is in the movie, Amanda Young, and man, I really liked her in this movie as well, and I like her in all the other ones that she's in, but man, they give her a great connection with Jigsaw, even more so than you've seen in the Saw movies. And even though both these actors look older, like they didn't use CG or anything to change them up, that's fine. Like, I still like these characters a lot and their performances a lot. They were really great. There is a character in this blonde lady, and I won't say anything besides that. She is one of my favorite characters in the Saw franchise in a while. She was genuinely just so interesting of a character, and I'm really only using the word interesting because I don't really want to spoil it. But man, this character was very interesting. This blonde lady. You'll know immediately who I'm talking about when you see the movie. The traps are good, but I feel like they're sidelined, and that's good because, like I said, this does a good balance of both the traps and the character development with John Kramer. But it's also 10 movies in, and the traps, there are some fun ones, but some of them are just like, like we've seen this before, kind of similar to the other ones. There was one that I really liked. I guess I'll kind of spoil it, where like a girl has got her head trapped between this wire, and like she's got to cut her body parts off to like get blood to go into a thing to free her from that, which we've seen before, but I thought that it was executed pretty well in this. The movie at the end, of course, the movie has the typical Saw ending like the other Saw endings, like the other Saw movies have, but it's like it has a double ending twist, if that makes sense. And like I said, I'm not going to ruin it, but it does a good job of making you get into a even bigger situation before the actual twist happens, and I thought that worked as well. Even though it feels very James Bond. Again, without really ruining anything, it feels very James Bond at the end, which is funny, and it's over the top. And like I said, the Saw movies are really fun doing that, and I really love those. Love that about the franchise. It's really fun and entertaining in that way. And stay for the end credits because there's a good but brief like scene that was really cool to see, and it made me go, yes, I can't believe I saw that again. That's awesome, kind of thing. But like I said, overall, it's a good movie. It's more of a movie than a lot of the Saw movies are, and I'm not a critic. I don't want to just say like, oh, it's a better movie, but it works better in terms of not going back and forth with the timelines. It feels more like a regular movie, which is good, but I don't know, like I love the goofiness of all the other ones slightly more, even though I like the character development in this a lot. I thought that was something that genuinely surprised me in a Saw movie and made me interested. Hopefully they'll do another one that's set between like 1 and 2 again, and they'll keep going. But man, I like the way that they did this. It was really entertaining. It's, if I had to rank it though, it wouldn't be number one, even though it's one of the best critically reviewed of the Saw movies since the first one, which is genuinely great. Because even though I don't really care to criticize stuff or be a critic, like that's cool that it's getting good critic ratings. And looking at the franchise as a whole, this, I can see why this is critically one of the better ones. But I give entertainment over criticism most of the time, so I think that I still prefer the first two movies, and 6 and 7, and then this would probably be the next one in line if I had to rank it, and then probably 5, or no, then probably 5, then Jigsaw, then Spiral, then probably Saw 4, which is my least favorite, which isn't bad. Saw 4 isn't like bad at all. It's just push comes to shove, that's probably my least favorite. One of the lesser interesting characters, for that movie, I was less interested in the characters the most, I think, out of all of them. And like I said, with Spiral, which came out before this, that did an interesting job of character development. It was a detective story, but having Chris Rock and Sam Jackson was great. But I felt like the traps were slightly lacking in that one, so that's why those are lower in the ranking. But like I said, this one would be in the middle after like I said, the first two and 6 and 7. This is the one probably after that. But still, it's a great franchise. It's still really fun, and I always have so much enjoyment with it, and I really do love the franchise. So it's not like I'm saying I dislike any of them, and I'm not saying that this one is my favorite one, but it's definitely up there, upper tier. So middle upper tier. And I'm glad that it's getting some good recognition. I'm glad it's getting some good fans. I'm glad it's getting some good critical reception, because, like I said, that's just interesting to see in a franchise like this for going so long. You would think it's the opposite, but a lot of horror franchises have been doing this recently, where they've been getting somewhat better critical praise for some of the sequels than the ones wedged in the middle. So I like that. I think that's cool. But like I said, really fun. I had a lot of enjoyment, is what I'm trying to say. I couldn't say that. But yeah, and then next week we got The Exorcist Believer, which I am really excited for, so I will definitely do a review on that. I've been pretty scarce on reviews, but I'm still doing some of the modern reviews, like movies that are coming out horror-wise, so I'll definitely review Exorcist Believer this next week. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about Saw X. Really, really fun time. Upper middle tier in the franchise. Glad a lot of people are liking it. Hopefully it makes a lot of money and we get more. So thank you guys for watching. That is it, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.